2 Kings 3. In the 18th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign over Judah, Ahab's son Jehoram became king over Israel in Samaria. He ruled for 12 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, but not to the same degree as his father and mother. He did remove the sacred pillar of Baal that his father had made, yet he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who encouraged Israel to sin. He did not turn from them. Now, King Mesha of Moab was a sheep breeder. He would send as tribute to the king of Israel 100,000 male lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. When Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. At that time, King Jehoram left Samaria and assembled all Israel for war. He sent this message to King Jehoshaphat of Judah. The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you fight with me against Moab? Okay, so before we get to that answer of what he's going to do, we have Ahab had Jehoshaphat come and fight alongside of him. Just want to remind you of that. Jehoshaphat was fighting alongside of Ahab when Ahab died. So Jehoshaphat has been inclined to help the northern kingdom, has helped the father of said king here. So we'll see what happens. Will he do it or not? The king of there we are. Will you help? Jehoshaphat replied, I will join you in your campaign. My army and horses are at your disposal. He then asked, which invasion route are you going to take? Jehoram answered, by the road to the wilderness of Edom. So the kings of Israel, Judah, and Edom set out together. They wandered around on the road for 7 days and finally ran out of water for the men and the animals they had with them. The king of Israel said, oh no! Certainly the Lord has summoned these 3 kings so that he can hand them over to the king of Moab. Jehoshaphat asked, is there no prophet of the Lord here that we might seek the Lord's direction? One of the servants of the king of Israel answered, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to be Elijah's servant. Jehoshaphat said, yes, he receives the Lord's message. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to visit him. So we have previously, when Jehoshaphat is helping Ahab, he's like, let's inquire of the Lord. And so they did. Now we ran into trouble. Let's inquire of the Lord. Jehoshaphat, why didn't you inquire of the Lord before you went up? Maybe he did, and it's just not part of the story. But we have Jehoshaphat is the king of the southern kingdom of Judah who wants to do the right thing. Edom, remember, is also a descendant of Abraham. Moab is a descendant of Lot. So they are all from the family. So we have 3 of the family going against one of the other members of the family. And now we're going to go, we ran out of water. We went 7 days. We went a totality of time, and we didn't plan. We don't have water. What are we going to do? Elisha said to the king of Israel, why are you here? Go to your father's prophets or your mother's prophets. The king of Israel replied to him, no, for the Lord is the one who summoned these 3 kings so that he can hand them over to Moab. I'm not going to go ask them. The Lord summoned us to hand us over to Moab. Look at how the paranoid person from the northern kingdom is acting. Elisha said, as certainly as the Lord of heaven's armies lives, whom I serve, if I did not respect King Jehoshaphat of Judah, I would not pay attention to you or acknowledge you. But now, get me a musician. What? So I'm going to only talk to you because you're with Jehoshaphat. So that's the only reason I'm going to entertain this idea of yours, this question of yours. I'm going to entertain it because of him. The term used to refer to one who plays a stringed instrument, perhaps a harp. So go get a musician. This is a weird occurrence. Not familiar with this. Now, we have had them singing or before and dancing with Saul. So we know that prophets are musicians, or sometimes they are. When they played, the Lord energized him, and he said, "This is what the Lord has said. Make many cisterns in this valley, for this is what the Lord has said. You will not feel any wind or see any rain, but this valley will be full of water, and you and your cattle and your animals will drink. This is an easy task for the Lord. He will also hand Moab over to you. You will defeat every fortified city and every important city. You must chop down every productive tree, stop up all the springs, and cover all the cultivated land with stones." So the music plays. Elijah is filled with the Lord when the music plays. This should perhaps bring to mind when David plays the music and Saul is soothed. Okay, that's what it brings to mind here. That somehow the playing of the music is energizing Elisha, and he tells them what is going to happen. Now go dig in the valley. It's not going to rain, but you're going to have water for all your animals, your cattle to drink. So you're going to go back. So why does Elisha just happen to be where the kings are marching? That's a weird phenomenon. They find him there, and so you're going to defeat Moab. So unlike your paranoid guy up north, who's over Israel, no, God is going to hand him over to you. Now, here's what you do, and it's very important, I think. Chop down every productive tree. So all of the fruit trees, all of the olive trees, the fig trees, you're chopping them down. You're going to stop up the springs. You're going to cover all the cultivated land with stones. So you're going to put stones in the way so they can't cultivate. You're going to stop up the springs so they don't have water. And you're going to cut down the trees that are there annually producing fruit. This seems like, scorched earth tactic of victory. But that is being told to them by the prophet. Sure enough, the next morning at the time of the morning sacrifice, water came flowing down from Edom and filled the land. Now all Moab had heard that the kings were attacking, so everyone old enough to fight was mustered and placed at the border. When they got up early the next morning, the sun was shining on the water. To the Moabites, who were some distance away, the water looked red like blood. So that's interesting. We have the water looking red like blood. If you have the sun shining at the right angle, think about a sunset or a sunrise over water, and it's going to turn the water a color. Here you have it turning the water red. It's shining through all of these cisterns. It looks like it's blood over the land. The Moabites said, "It's blood! The kings must have fought one another. The soldiers have struck one another down. Now Moab seize the plunder." When they approached the Israelite camp, the Israelites rose up and struck down the Moabites, who then ran from them. The Israelites thoroughly defeated Moab. They tore down the cities, and each man threw a stone into every cultivated field until they were covered. They stopped up every spring and chopped down every productive tree. Notice the reverse order here. Notice a reverse order of what was said for them to do. They were to throw stones in the field. That was the last thing they were told. They were to stop up every spring. That was the middle thing they were told to do. And chop down every productive tree. That was the first thing they did. So we're getting a reverse order here of what is happening. Wonder if there could be a chiasm here. When you see that kind of a reverse order of things that are happening, there is a sign that there could be a chiasm. You could go and search between the middle parts there. I like to point when I see clues to it, but I don't always know if there's one. It takes a while to search that out and find it, but just giving you an idea. Hey, could be a chiasm. Only Kir Haresath was left intact, but the soldiers armed with slings surrounded it and attacked it. When the king of Moab realized he was losing the battle, he and 700 swordsmen tried to break through and attack the king of Edom, but they failed. So he took his firstborn son, who was to succeed him as king, and offered him up as a burnt sacrifice on the wall. there was an outburst of divine anger against Israel, so they broke off the attack and returned to their homeland. This is weird. So the king of Moab takes his firstborn son, who was to succeed him as king, offers him as a burnt sacrifice on the wall. There's an outburst of divine anger against Israel. Why is there an outburst against Israel? It's not Israel doing it. It's Moab who's doing this. The meaning of the statement is uncertain, for the subject of the anger is not indicated. Okay, so then it might not be Israel. Except for two relatively late texts, the noun refers to an outburst of divine anger, but it seemed unlikely that the Lord would be angry with Israel, for he placed his stamp of approval on the campaign. Freeman suggests the narrative obviously has a bias against the Omri dynasty, included the observation to show the Lord would not allow Israelite king to have an undiluted victory. Some suggest that the original source identified Chemosh, the Moabite god, as the subject, and that his name was later suppressed by the scribe, but this proposal raised more questions than answers. Yeah, that would definitely raise more questions. So the divine anger, so they broke off their attack and returned to the homeland. So I could see divine anger coming against Moab because he's doing this, and you break off the attack because you don't need to be there. Like, this is the last one. You break off the attack. God's anger is being poured out, so you can just leave. Why would the divine anger go against Israel if it's the king of Moab who's doing the thing? I don't follow that. So it's saying that it wasn't actually there in the text. That makes sense. So the divine outburst comes, so they break off the attack and return home. We're not needed anymore, boys. God's got it in hand.